Antarctica, the complete chronicle of Earth's most mysterious continent. A comprehensive, fact-based history of discovery, exploration, and the formation of the ice continent. Beraberi, Prologue, the continent that should not exist. Antarctica stands alone among Earth's 7 continents as an enigma wrapped in ice, a paradox of planetary geography that defies human habitation and historical convention. The continent of extremes. Antarctica is the only continent on Earth where no indigenous population has ever existed. Unlike every other landmass colonized by humanity over millennia, Antarctica remained forever untouched by permanent human settlement until the 20th century. No cities rise from the landscape. Not a single metropolis, town, or village has ever been established. Only temporary research stations dot the endless white. No sovereign nations claim dominion. The only continent governed by international treaty rather than national borders. No traditional economic activity occurs. No agriculture, no industry, no commerce in the conventional sense. 98% of its surface lies beneath perpetual ice. A frozen desert larger than Europe, buried under ice sheets averaging 2,160 meters thick, reaching depths of 4,176 meters, a world that once was. But Antarctica's story is not one of eternal desolation. This frozen wasteland guards secrets from a dramatically different past. 60 million years ago, the green Antarctica. During the late Cretaceous period, Antarctica was unrecognizable compared to today. Dense, temperate rainforests covered the land with towering podocarp trees, ancient conifers, reaching heights of 40 meters. Nothofagus forests. Southern beach created canopies similar to modern-day southern Chile and New Zealand. Year-round temperatures averaged 10-15 degrees, 59 degrees, with summer highs reaching 20 degrees, 68 degrees, rich fossil beds. In the transantarctic mountains preserve tree stumps, leaves, pollen, and seeds. The prehistoric fauna. Antarctica hosted an extraordinary array of life. Cryolophosaurus ellioti. The frozen crested lizard, a 6-meter-long theropod dinosaur discovered in 1991 in the transantarctic mountains, dating to approximately 190 million years ago. Antarctopelta oliveroi, an armored ankylosaur that roamed the peninsula 75 million years ago. Marine reptiles. Massive plesiosaurs and mosasaurs patrolled Antarctic seas. Ancient mammals. After the dinosaur extinction, primitive marsupials and monotremes evolved here. Prehistoric penguins. Giant species like Anthropornis nordenskioldi stood 1.7 meters tall and weighed up to 90 kilograms. 34 to 23 million years ago, the Great Freeze. The transformation from green continent to ice kingdom occurred during the Oligocene epoch. 35 million years ago, Antarctica's final separation from South America created the Drake Passage. 34 million years ago. The Antarctic Circumpolar Current, ACC, formed, thermally isolating the continent. 9 million years ago. The Eocene-Oligocene extinction event triggered rapid global cooling 30 million years ago. Permanent ice sheets began forming over East Antarctica 23 million years ago. The ice reached approximately its current extent. 14 million years ago. The West Antarctic ice sheet stabilized. This process transformed Antarctica from a forested, inhabited land into the largest desert on Earth. Yes, desert, for Antarctica receives less than 50 millimeters of precipitation annually in its interior, making it technically the world's largest, coldest desert. The human paradox, the human discovery of Antarctica, represents one of history's great ironies. Ancient civilizations theorized its existence for over 2,000 years before anyone laid eyes upon it. Philosophers and cartographers dreamed of Terra Australis Incognita centuries before sailors first glimpsed its ice-choked shores in 1820. Yet even more remarkable are the tantalizing hints that ancient peoples may have possessed knowledge of Antarctica that modern science cannot explain. Medieval maps depicting southern continents with suspicious accuracy, ancient texts describing lands of eternal ice, and cartographic mysteries that continue to perplex researchers today. Part 1. Ancient Visions of the Southern Land, 300 BCE, 1500 CE. Jack, the Birth of Terra, Australis, Classical Antiquities Grand Theory. Circa 350 BCE, the philosophical foundation. The story of Antarctica begins not with its discovery, but with pure reason. Ancient Greek philosophers, gazing at the stars and contemplating the symmetry of nature, concluded that a great southern continent must exist, not from evidence, but from mathematical necessity. Pythagoras, 570-495 BCE. First proposed that Earth was spherical, revolutionary thinking in an age when most cultures imagined a flat world. His followers, the Pythagoreans, believed in cosmic symmetry and balance. Parmenides of Elea, 515-450 BCE, developed the theory of climatic zones, dividing Earth into 5 bands: 2 frigid zones, Arctic and Antarctic, 2 temperate zones, 1 torrid equatorial zone. He theorized that if a frozen zone existed in the north, logical symmetry demanded one in the south. Aristotle, 384-322 BCE. The master's conviction, in his treatise, Meteorologica, circa 350 BCE, Aristotle wrote extensively about geographical symmetry. There must be a region in the southern hemisphere which bears the same relation to the southern pole as the place we live in bears to the northern pole. Aristotle's reasoning was elegant. The known world, Europe, Asia, northern Africa, contained considerable landmass in the northern hemisphere. To maintain planetary balance, both physical and aesthetic, an equivalent mass must exist in the south. He called this hypothetical land Antarcticos, meaning opposite to the Arctic or opposite to the Bear, referring to Ursa Major constellation. This wasn't mere speculation. Aristotle believed that without such a counterweight, Earth would be gravitationally imbalanced. Eratosthenes of Cyrene, 276-194 BCE, the mathematician's map. Eratosthenes, head of the Library of Alexandria and the first person to calculate Earth's circumference with remarkable accuracy, his estimate was within 2% of the actual value, created one of the first world maps incorporating the concept of Terra Australis. In approximately 240 BCE, he produced a map showing the known inhabited world, oikoumene, a vast unknown southern landmass extending across the bottom of the world, climatic zones based on astronomical observations. Eratosthenes calculated that if Earth's circumference was approximately 250,000 stadia, about 40,000 kilometer, remarkably close to the actual 40,075 kilometer, then vast unexplored territories must exist to the south. And this, Claudius Ptolemy, 100 or 170 CE, codifying the dream. Ptolemy's Geographia, circa 150 CE, became the definitive geographical text for over 1,400 years. His world map featured a massive southern continent extending across the entire bottom of the known world, connecting Africa, India, and Southeast Asia in a great ring of land. Ptolemy's Terra Australis Incognita, unknown southern land, was depicted as a massive continent surrounding the South Pole, shown as potentially connected to Africa and Asia, described as a temperate, possibly habitable land, assumed to cover much of the southern hemisphere. His reasoning combined Aristotelian symmetry with observational astronomy. The southern stars' positions suggested vast distances of Earth extending below the equator. Pomponius Mela, 43 CE, the habitable South. This Roman geographer went further, theorizing that Terra Australis might be inhabited. In his De Chorographia, he described the Antichthones, people living on the opposite side of Earth, in temperate zones that mirror our own, separated from us by impassable torrid regions. This tantalizing idea that humans might live in the south, forever unknown to the north, captivated medieval imagination. Medieval mysteries, maps that should not exist. The cartographic enigma. Between 1500–1570, several maps appeared depicting southern continents with features that seemingly could not have been known without direct observation. These maps remain subjects of intense scholarly debate and popular speculation. 1. The Piri Reis Map, 1513, The Admiral's Mystery. Piri Reis. Full name, Ahmed Muhiddin Piri, was an Ottoman admiral and cartographer. In 1513, while stationed in Gelibolu, Gallipoli, he compiled a world map as a gift for Sultan Selim I. The map's remarkable features. Drawn on gazelle leather, shows the western coasts of Europe and Africa, the eastern coast of South America, most controversially, depicts what appears to be a coastline extending from South America southward. Some researchers claim this southern landmass resembles Antarctica's coast, as it would appear without ice. The mystery deepens. Piri Reis noted in his own handwriting on the map that he compiled it from approximately 20 source maps, including ancient maps from the Library of Alexandria, a map captured from a Spanish sailor who had sailed with Columbus, 4 Portuguese maps of Africa and India, an ancient map showing lands in the West. The controversial interpretation. In 1966, Professor Charles Hapgood of Keene College published Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings, arguing that the Piri Reis map shows the Antarctic Peninsula, Queen Maud Land coastline, geographical features matching Antarctica without its ice cover. Details that wouldn't be officially discovered until the 20th century. The skeptical response. Mainstream historians and cartographers argue the southern landmass is actually a distorted South American coast. Medieval cartographers often drew speculative southern continents based on Ptolemaic theory. The resemblance to Antarctica is coincidental, a case of pareidolia. No evidence exists that anyone circumnavigated Antarctica before 1820. Yet the debate continues. How did Piri Reis draw certain features with such accuracy? Where did his source maps come from? 2. The Orontius Phineus map, 1531. Antarctica depicted in detail? Oronce Phineus, Latinized as Orontius Phineus, was a French mathematician and cartographer at the Collège Royal in Paris. His 1531 world map, printed in his book Nova et Integra Universi Orbis Descriptio, shows a massive southern continent labeled Terra Australis. Extraordinary details. The continent is roughly the size and shape of Antarctica, shows rivers flowing from interior to coast, suggesting ice-free conditions or subglacial rivers, depicts mountain ranges in positions roughly corresponding to the Transantarctic Mountains, labels interior regions with classical names, Brasiliae Regio, Tierra del Fuego. Hapgood's Analysis. 1966. Using spherical trigonometry, Hapgood claimed the Orontius map's southern continent matched Antarctica's actual geography with remarkable precision, accounting for the Antarctic Peninsula, the Weddell Sea, the Ross Sea, east and west. Antarctic divisions. Orthodox scholarly view. Phineus was following Ptolemaic tradition of drawing a speculative southern continent. The rivers and mountains are artistic inventions to make the landmass appear habitable. Any similarities to actual Antarctic geography are coincidental. No contemporary evidence suggests Phineus had access to genuine Antarctic exploration data. 3. The Gerardus Mercator map, 1569, the projection that changed everything. Gerardus Mercator. Gerard de Cremer created his famous 1569 world map using his revolutionary cylindrical projection, still used today for marine navigation. The southern continent on Mercator's map, labeled Terra Australis non-dum cognita, southern land not yet known, extends across the entire bottom of the map, shows tentative coastal features, separates it from the known lands with the inscription, "The southern regions are at present still largely unknown." Mercator's sources. He claimed to use Ptolemy's geography, recent Portuguese and Spanish exploration reports, earlier medieval maps, mathematical projections of expected land distribution. The ongoing debate. Did Mercator have access to lost ancient maps? Was he simply fulfilling the classical expectation of a southern continent? Some researchers point to specific details that supposedly match Antarctic geography. Skeptics note that Mercator's continent extends far too far north and includes fictional features. Other medieval Antarctic hints. Philippe Boit's map, 1737-1754. French geographer Philippe Boit created maps showing Antarctica divided into two islands by a channel, a feature only confirmed in the 1960s when ice-penetrating radar revealed that Antarctica is indeed divided by subglacial channels. The Ptolemaic tradition. Throughout the medieval period, maps consistently showed Terra Australis, keeping the concept alive through dark ages when exploration ceased. Indigenous knowledge. Did ancient peoples know? Polynesian navigation traditions. Some researchers suggest that Polynesian navigators, who mastered oceanic voyaging across thousands of kilometers, may have reached Antarctic waters. Maori legends speak of Joey Huiterangiora, who supposedly sailed south in approximately 650 CE and encountered frozen seas and rocks that pierced the sky. Icebergs? The voyage is mentioned in oral traditions recorded in the 19th century. However, no physical evidence or contemporary written records support these journeys reaching Antarctica proper. South American connections. Indigenous peoples of Tierra del Fuego, Yagan, Selknam, lived closer to Antarctica than any other human population, yet no archaeological evidence suggests they reached Antarctica. Their oral traditions don't mention lands further south. The Drake Passage remained an impassable barrier to their canoe-based culture. The Pre-Columbian Mystery. Summary. 3 possible explanations exist for the medieval Antarctic maps. 1. Ancient knowledge theory. Minority view. Ancient civilizations, possibly pre-Ice Age, mapped Antarctica when ice-free. These maps were preserved through the Library of Alexandria and other centers. Medieval cartographers copied fragments of this lost knowledge. Problems. No archaeological evidence supports advanced pre-Ice Age civilizations. Antarctica has been ice-covered for 14+ million years. 2. Lucky speculation theory. Mainstream view. Classical philosophers correctly predicted a southern continent through logic. Medieval cartographers drew speculative continents following Ptolemaic tradition. Resemblances to actual Antarctica are coincidental. Confirmation bias makes us see patterns that aren't really there. Support. Extensive documentary evidence of the Ptolemaic tradition. Many medieval maps show wildly inaccurate southern continents. 3. Undocumented exploration theory. Highly speculative. Unknown voyagers, Polynesian, Arab, Chinese, or others, reached Antarctic waters before 1820. Fragmentary knowledge entered European cartographic tradition through indirect channels. Official records were lost or never created. Problems. Complete absence of contemporary documentation. Implausible that such monumental discoveries left no trace. The academic consensus. Medieval Antarctic maps reflect classical geographical theory, artistic imagination, and wishful thinking rather than actual knowledge. The similarities to real Antarctic geography are either coincidental or result of modern confirmation bias. Yet the mystery endures, fueling both serious scholarship and popular speculation about ancient knowledge lost to time. Numéro de Poisse Part 2, The Age of Exploration, Approaching the Ice, 1500–1770. The Southern Ocean, Humanity's Last Frontier. As European age of exploration exploded across the globe in the 16th century, with Columbus reaching America, 1492, Vasco da Gama rounding Africa to India, 1498, and Magellan circumnavigating the world, 1519–1522, one region remained utterly impenetrable, the frozen waters surrounding the South Pole. Why did Antarctica remain hidden for so long? Geographic barriers. The Southern Ocean's screaming 60s. Latitudes, 60–70 degrees where winds average 50–70 km/h year-round. Gigantic swells, reaching 15–20 meters in height. Pack ice. Extending hundreds of kilometers from the continent. Icebergs, the size of cities drifting northward. Zero visibility during frequent storms and blizzards. Technological limitations. Wooden sailing ships couldn't withstand ice impacts. No accurate longitude calculation until 1760s. Harrison's chronometer. No cold weather survival gear or clothing. No understanding of scurvy prevention until 1795. Navigation by stars impossible during polar night. Economic disincentives. No known trade routes in Antarctic waters. No spices, gold, or valuable resources known to exist. No populations to trade with. Extreme danger to sailors and ships. Yet slowly, persistently, explorers pushed southward. 1578. Sir Francis Drake, the first European in Antarctic waters. Francis Drake. c. 1540–1596. English privateer, slave trader, and circumnavigator, may have been the first European to glimpse Antarctic waters, though he never saw the continent itself. The voyage. In September 1578, Drake's fleet passed through the Strait of Magellan and entered the Pacific. Immediately, his ships were struck by a catastrophic storm. Storm duration. Over 50 days of continuous tempest. Ships lost, several vessels destroyed or separated. Course. Blown far south of Cape Horn. The critical question. How far south did Drake go? According to Drake's nephew, John Drake, who was captured by the Spanish and interrogated in 1584, we were driven south to 57 degrees. 57 degrees latitude. Some historians interpret this as Drake possibly reaching 58–59 degrees, approaching the South Shetland Islands. What Drake saw. He noted that the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans met south of Tierra del Fuego. This discovery contradicted Ptolemaic maps showing Terra Australis. Extending to Tierra del Fuego, Drake proved that a new open ocean passage existed south of South America. Historical significance. Drake's storm-driven journey demonstrated that Terra Australis, if it existed, didn't extend as far north as previously believed, showed that the bottom of the world was reachable, opened the theoretical possibility of circumnavigating a southern landmass. The Drake Passage. Named in his honor, this 800-kilometer-wide strait between South America and Antarctica is Earth's widest, most violent stretch of open ocean, where Atlantic, Pacific, and Southern Oceans collide. Rakias 1599, 1603, Dirk Gerrits, The Accidental Southern Voyager. Dirk Gerrits Pomp was a Dutch navigator serving on the fleet of Jacob Mahu and on Simon de Cordes, attempting to follow Drake's route to the Pacific. The Accidental Discovery. In 1599, Gerrits's ship was separated from the fleet during a storm off Cape Horn. According to his later account, recorded in 1622, his vessel was driven south to Quabit 64 degrees latitude. Disputed by historians, witnessed high mountainous land covered with snow, saw a coastline resembling the Norwegian coast. The controversy. Some historians believe Gerrits saw the Ari, South Shetland Islands, 61–63 degrees. Skeptics argue he may have reached only 60 degrees and saw storm clouds resembling land. His account wasn't published until 1622, 23 years after the event. No contemporary documentation exists to verify his claims. Why does this matter? If Gerrits's account is accurate, he may have been the first European to see Antarctic land, reached the furthest south of any explorer before the 18th century, provided the first eyewitness description of Antarctic coastal features. However, modern consensus treats this account with skepticism due to lack of corroborating evidence. 1642–1644, Abel Tasman, Mapping Terra Australis, Abel Janzoen Tasman. 1603–1659 was a Dutch explorer commissioned by the Dutch East India Company, VOC, to find the rumored southern continent and its supposed riches. First voyage, 1642–1643, circumnavigating Australia. Objective: find Terra Australis and establish whether it connected to Australia, then called New Holland. August 14th, 1642, departed Batavia, Jakarta, with 2 ships, Heemskerk, Tasman's flagship, Ziehen, Captain Francois Jacobzoon Vischer. November 24th, 1642, discovered Tasmania, named Van Diemen's Land after Governor-General Anthony Van Diemen. December 13th, 1642 sus. Discovered New Zealand, believing it to be the western coast of Terra Australis. The Antarctic connection. Tasman sailed far enough south, approximately 49 degrees, to enter the Antarctic convergence zone. Encountered floating ice and extreme cold. Observed seabirds associated with Antarctic waters, albatrosses, petrels. However, he never went far enough south to see Antarctica itself. January-February 1643. Explored Tonga and Fiji before returning to Batavia. Second voyage, 1644. Clarifying Australia's geography. Tasman attempted to determine if Australia was connected to New Guinea or to a southern continent. He mapped large sections of Australia's northern coast, proved Australia was an island continent, failed to find any connection to Terra Australis. Legacy. Tasman's voyages proved Terra Australis, if it existed, lay far south of Australia. Narrowed the search area for the hypothetical continent. Demonstrated that extreme cold and dangerous ice made southern exploration extremely hazardous. His maps remained the most accurate depiction of the South Pacific for over a century. Yet Tasman is remembered more for discovering Tasmania and New Zealand than for Antarctic exploration, as he never ventured into truly Antarctic waters. 1675. Anthony de la Roche, first sighting of South Georgia. Anthony de la Roche was an English merchant captain sailing in South Atlantic waters. His voyage represents a possible first sighting of subantarctic land. The incident, April 1675. According to contemporary accounts, de la Roche was blown off course by storms while attempting to round Cape Horn, sailed far to the southeast, discovered a large mountainous island covered with snow, remained there for 2 weeks repairing his ship, located at approximately off 54-55 degrees latitude, 35-40 degrees off longitude. What did he see? Modern historians believe de la Roche discovered South Georgia Island, located at 54°15, 36-30 W, matching his approximate coordinates, mountainous terrain with peaks reaching 2,934 meters, Mount Paget, permanently ice-covered except for coastal areas, no indigenous population. Significance. This may be the first documented European discovery of land within the Antarctic region. South Georgia, while not part of Antarctica proper, lies within the Antarctic convergence zone. De la Roche's discovery proved that land existed in the extreme south. His account attracted little attention, and the island was lost for decades. The naming. South Georgia was rediscovered and named by Captain James Cook in 1775, who was unaware of de la Roche's earlier visit. 1739. Jean-Baptiste Charles Bouvet de Lozier, discovering the loneliest island. Bouvet de Lozier, till 1705-1786, was a French naval officer and explorer commissioned by the French East India Company to find Terra Australis and establish profitable trade routes. The expedition, 1738-1739, seeking the Southern Paradise. Commission. King Louis XV and the French East India Company authorized Bouvet to find the rumored southern continent, assess its resources and native populations, establish French territorial claims, open new trade routes, fleet, Eagle, Bouvet's flagship, Marie, Captain's Hay. July 19th, 1738, departed Lorient, France. October 1738, arrived at Ile-de-France, Mauritius, to resupply. December 1st, 1738, departed Mauritius, sailing due south. The Discovery, January 1st, 1739. At approximately day 50 4 to 26, 3 to 24, in thick fog and treacherous seas, lookouts spotted a massive ice-covered landmass emerging from the mist. Bouvet attempted to approach, but found the island surrounded by impenetrable pack ice. The coast was sheer ice cliffs, rising 500+ meters directly from the sea. No beach or safe landing site was visible. Temperatures plunged to 15 degrees. The ship's rigging froze solid. Bouvet named it Cap de la Circoncision, Cape Circumcision, believing it to be a promontory of the Antarctic mainland rather than an island. The failed search. For 10 more days, Bouvet attempted to circumnavigate the land to find its extent, was repeatedly blocked by pack ice and storm, saw no land animals or vegetation, found no evidence of human habitation, collected no samples due to inability to land. January 11th, 1739. With his crew suffering from scurvy and frostbite, Bouvet ordered withdrawal northward. Return. May 1739. Returned to France, having discovered land far south, but unable to determine if it was part of Terra Australis. The Lost Island. After Bouvet's discovery, the island was lost for 69 years. No one could relocate it. Sailors searched the coordinates, but found only open ocean. Many believed Bouvet had hallucinated or fabricated the discovery. The island's extreme isolation and permanent fog made it nearly impossible to find. Rediscovery. Not until December 1825 did British whaler Captain George Norris on the Sprightly relocate the island at 4 to 26, 3 to 24, exactly Bouvet's coordinates. Modern understanding, Bouvet Island. Bouvetoya is the most remote island on Earth, 1,600 km from the nearest land, Antarctica, 2,500 km from the nearest permanently inhabited land, South Africa, a Norwegian territory since 1927, a volcanic island 49 kilometers in area, 93% covered by glaciers, completely uninhabited except for an automated weather station. The island has never had a native population. Historical significance. Bouvet's discovery proved that land existed in Antarctic waters, demonstrated the extreme difficulty of Antarctic exploration, showed that any southern continent would be ice-covered and hostile. His descriptions of massive ice formations and severe cold provided Europe with its first realistic picture of Antarctic conditions. 1772, 1775. Captain James Cook, the man who circled the bottom of the world. James Cook, 1798-79, remains the most important pre-discovery Antarctic explorer. He didn't discover Antarctica, but he came closer than any previous explorer and proved its existence through irrefutable logic. Background. Why Cook? The British Royal Navy commissioned Cook for his proven skill in naval surveying and cartography. Successful first Pacific voyage, 1768-1771, observing the transit of Venus and mapping New Zealand. Expertise in preventing scurvy. He lost only 3 men from disease on his first voyage, extraordinary for the era, methodical scientific approach to exploration. The mission: settling the Terra Australis. Question once and for all. The British Admiralty, backed by the Royal Society, gave Cook explicit instructions. Circumnavigate the globe at the highest possible southern latitudes. Search for Terra Australis incognita. Claim any discovered lands for Britain. Conduct scientific observations of geography, flora, fauna, and indigenous peoples. If Terra Australis existed, Cook would find it. If it didn't, Cook would prove its non-existence. The fleet's resolution: 462 tons. Commander, Captain James Cook. Crew, 112 men. A Whitby-built collier, coal ship, converted for exploration. Sturdy, practical design. HMS Adventure, 336 tons. Commander, Lieutenant Tobias Furneaux. Crew, 81 men. Companionship for mutual support. Scientific team: Johann Reinhold. Forster. Principal naturalist: German. Georg Forster. Assistant naturalist: Johann's 17-year-old son, who became one of the expedition's finest artists and writers. William Hodges. Official expedition artist: William Wales. Astronomer: Anders Sparman. Swedish naturalist, joined later. July 13th, 1772, departed Plymouth, England. First southern penetration, December 1772, March 17C3. December 10th, 1782, crossed. 50th degrees latitude, entering the roaring 40s. December 14th, 1782, encountered first icebergs at 50°40. Cook wrote in his journal, "At 4 p.m. we saw the first ice island. This ice was about 50 feet high and half a mile in circuit. Soon after we saw more, and by 8 o'clock we had passed 17, besides several small pieces." December 1772. The ships entered the pack ice zone. Temperatures dropped to 5° to 10°. Fog reduced visibility to near zero. Ice surrounded the ships constantly. The rigging froze solid. Crew chipped ice from sails continuously. Frostbite affected multiple crew members. January 17th, 1773. Crossing the Antarctic Circle. At seaward 6°33 latitude, the Antarctic Circle, Cook became the first person in recorded history to cross into Antarctic waters. His journal entry: At about 11:15, we crossed the Antarctic Circle in the longitude of 39 Guiltrand, 35 E. Ice was seen from the masthead all round. We had 92 ice islands in sight from the deck. The crew witnessed extraordinary scenes: massive tabular icebergs, 1 to 2 kilometers long, jade-green ice underwater, millions of penguins on ice floes, seals and whales in abundance, aurora australis, southern lights at night. Pushing further south. Over the next 6 weeks, Cook repeatedly sailed south until stopped by impenetrable pack ice, sailed east along the ice edge, pushed south again whenever openings appeared, reached to 67°15. His furthest south during this leg, January 30th, 1773, February-March 1773. As autumn approached, temperatures dropped further. Cook wrote, "The ice we now met with was of a different kind from what we had seen before. These pieces were flat and low, made of snow that had fallen upon, and was afterwards frozen to the surface of the sea. This ice forms a firm, solid body, and is at least 4 or 5 feet thick. This was high ice, frozen ocean, versus the glacial ice kind of icebergs, formed from snow on land." March the 17th, 1773. Cook ordered withdrawal northward to avoid being trapped in winter ice. The first season's conclusion. Cook reached 65°15, 39°35, approximately 120 nautical miles from what we now know is the Antarctic coastline of Queen Maud Land. He proved a massive ice field existed in the extreme south. The ice barrier was hundreds of kilometers wide. No ship could penetrate further south without extreme danger. If land existed, it was buried beneath ice. April-November 1773. Pacific Interlude. Cook spent the Antarctic winter exploring. New Zealand, April-June 1773. Tahiti, August-September 1773. Tonga, October 1793. New Zealand again, November 1793. During this period, the ships separated. HMS Adventure returned to Britain. Cook recruited more crew in New Zealand. Scientists collected specimens and data. Cook prepared for a second Antarctic assault. Second Southern penetration, December 1773. February 1774. November 27th, 1773. Departed New Zealand, December 12th, 1773. Crossed the Antarctic Circle, 66°33', for the second time at longitude 140°, opposite side of Antarctica from first crossing. December 20th, 31, 1773, extended ice battles. The ice conditions were even worse than the previous year. Dense pack ice forced numerous detours. Frequent fog created collision risks with icebergs. Crew morale declined as cold intensified. Several men showed symptoms of pneumonia. Cook wrote on December 23rd, "The sea in this place was entirely covered with ice, as far as we could see from the masthead. The pieces were of a considerable size and close together, so that it was with great difficulty we could force the ship through them." January 26, 1774, farthest south. At Oslerlevenemsup, Cook reached his absolute southern record, 70°, 106°. This position placed him approximately 150 kilometers from the Antarctic coast, Thurston Island 8's coast region, 2,000+ kilometers south of the Antarctic Circle, in conditions no human had ever before experienced. What Cook saw. Looking south from the ship's deck, a solid barrier of ice extending to the horizon, ice cliffs 3 to 4 meters high, snow-covered peaks visible in the far distance, possibly mainland mountains, thousands of penguins, whales breaching among ice floes. Cook's decision. After careful observation, Cook made the painful decision to turn back. His journal entry: "I will not say it was impossible anywhere to get farther to the south, but the attempting it would have been a dangerous and rash enterprise. I, whose ambition leads me not only farther than any man has been before me, but as far as I think it possible for man to go, was not sorry at meeting with this interruption, as it in some measure relieved us." What did Cook conclude? In his characteristic methodical way, Cook reasoned: 1. A massive ice field existed across the entire southern region. 2. Either this ice extended to the South Pole or land existed beneath it. 3. Any southern land would be completely ice-covered and uninhabitable. 4. No commercial or strategic value existed in exploring further. 5. The danger to his crew outweighed any glory from pushing south. February-March 1774. Return northward. Cook explored the waters between Antarctica and South America, searched for islands reported by previous explorers, mapped several sub-Antarctic islands. March 17th, 1774, discovered South Georgia Island, 54°, 37°, Though technically rediscovering La Roche's 1675 find, Cook was the first to accurately map and describe it. Land doomed by nature to perpetual frigidness, never once to feel the warmth of the sun's rays, but to lie buried in everlasting snow and ice. He claimed it for Britain, naming it after King George III. January 1775. Discovered the South Sandwich Islands, 5659 Dix, 2628 de Glide, a chain of volcanic islands permanently ice-covered, surrounded by icebergs. July 30th, 1775. Returned to England. Cook had sailed over 110,000 kilometers in 3 years, circumnavigated Antarctica without seeing the continent, crossed the Antarctic Circle 4 times, reached 71 10s, a record unsurpassed for 49 years, proven that if Terra Australis existed, it was not the temperate, inhabited paradise of classical legend. Cook's legacy and conclusions. Upon his return, Cook wrote in his journal's conclusion, "That there may be a continent or large tract of land near the pole I will not deny. On the contrary, I am of the opinion there is, and it is probable that we have seen a part of it. I can be bold enough to say that no man will ever venture farther than I have done, and that the lands which may lie to the south will never be explored." Cook's predictions. A southern continent exists. It is completely ice-covered. It is economically worthless. No future explorers would surpass his southern penetration. How accurate was Cook? Correct. Antarctica exists and is ice-covered. Incorrect. Future explorers did venture further. Bellingshausen, 1820, Amundsen, 1911. Incorrect. Antarctica proved scientifically and strategically valuable. Cook's influence. His journals provided the first accurate descriptions of Antarctic conditions, demonstrated the scale of Antarctic ice, proved that sailing completely around the southern ice field was possible, discouraged exploration for 45 years. Who would risk death for an ice-covered wasteland? The irony. Cook came within 150 kilometers of sighting Antarctica, but never saw it due to ice and fog. Had he arrived just days earlier or later, or at a slightly different longitude, he might have glimpsed land and claimed discovery. His pronouncement that no one would venture further south actually delayed Antarctic discovery by discouraging other nations from attempting southern exploration. The Schroerense, Part 3, The Race to Sealand. The year of 3 discoveries, 1819, 1821. Setting the stage. Why 1820? After Cook's circumnavigation, 1772-1775, Antarctic exploration stagnated for 45 years. Why did 3 nations suddenly discover Antarctica almost simultaneously in 1820? Factors driving renewed interest? Kit 1. Economic motivation. Sealing and whaling. Fur seal populations. In the South Atlantic were nearly extinct by 1800 due to overhunting. Sealers desperately sought new hunting grounds. Reports of massive seal populations on sub-Antarctic islands attracted commercial expeditions. Whale oil. Prices soared due to global demand for lighting and industrial lubricants. British and American whaling fleets pushed increasingly south as Darundu. National prestige and territorial claims. The Napoleonic Wars, 1803-1815, ended, freeing naval resources for exploration. Britain, Russia, and the United States competed for geographic discovery glory. Territorial claims to newly discovered lands could provide future strategic and economic advantages. 3. Technological improvements. Better ship designs incorporating copper hulls, resistant to ship worm, improved cold weather clothing and survival gear, more accurate chronometers for longitude calculation, better understanding of scurvy prevention, citrus juice rations. 4. The Cook Challenge. Cook's claim that "no man will venture farther" became a challenge to ambitious explorers. New generation of naval officers wanted to prove Cook wrong. Scientific curiosity. What lay beyond Cook's ice barrier? Dewanena. January 1820. 3 nations, 1 continent, eternal controversy. The question. Who first saw Antarctica? The problem. 3 expeditions approached Antarctica within days of each other, and historical records are incomplete or ambiguous. 1. Russia, Bellingshausen and Lazarev, January 27-28, 1820. The expedition, Imperial Russia's Antarctic Challenge. Background. In 1819, Tsar Alexander I commissioned an ambitious program of world exploration to enhance Russian prestige and expand geographic knowledge. The Antarctic expedition was conceived as Russia's answer to Cook's achievement. Commanders: Captain Fadei Fadeyevich Bellingshausen, 1778-1852, born in Saaremaa, modern Estonia, then part of Russian Empire, veteran of First Russian Circumnavigation, 1803-1806, experienced navigator with 20-plus years' service, methodical, careful, scientific in approach. Lieutenant Mikhail Petrovich Lazarev, 1788-1851, younger, more ambitious officer, had already circumnavigated the globe twice, future admiral and commander of Russian Black Sea Fleet, more adventurous and willing to take risks. The ships: Vostok, East, 985-ton sloop of war. Commander: Bellingshausen. Crew: 117 officers and men. Better equipped, faster ship. Marny, peaceful, 530-ton transport sloop. Commander: Lazarev. Crew: 72 officers and men. Slower but sturdier, designed for cargo. Scientific equipment. Astronomical instruments for precise position fixing. Thermometers and barometers for weather observation. Magnetic compasses for geomagnetic measurements. Collection equipment for natural history specimens. July 16th, 1819. Departed Kronstadt, St. Petersburg. The mission: sail as far south as possible, circumnavigate Antarctica, following Cook's route but attempting to go further south, discover and chart new lands, collect scientific data, claim discoveries for the Russian Empire. December 1819, January 1820, approaching the ice. December 1819, entered the Southern Ocean from the Atlantic. The expedition encountered increasingly rough seas, the roaring 40s and furious 50s, first icebergs at 55 deg, dense fog reducing visibility, temperatures dropping to 5 deg 2, 12 deg Imbone. January 15th, 1820. Crossed the Antarctic Circle, 60°33 at longitude, January 22-26, 1820. Repeatedly attempted to push south, but were blocked by pack ice. Bellingshausen's systematic approach. When blocked by ice, he would sail east along the ice edge. Whenever the ice field opened a channel, he would push south again. He carefully recorded every position, ice condition, and environmental observation. January 27-28, 1820. The historic sighting. Date ambiguity. Bellingshausen used the Julian calendar, old style. Most of the world used Gregorian calendar, new style. The date was January 27th, 1820, Julian calendar, January 28th, 1820, Gregorian calendar. Modern historians use January 28th, 1820. Position: 69°, 2 What happened? From the deck of the Vostok, at approximately 2 p.m., Bellingshausen observed a solid stretch of ice running from east through south to west, as far as the eye could reach from the crow's nest in the clear, frosty weather, with a light offshore wind under sail. The edge of the ice shelf was perpendicular and formed cliffs. The flat surface of the ice continued to the south as far as could be seen. What did Bellingshausen see? Modern analysis of his coordinates indicates he was looking at the Fimbul Ice Shelf, part of Princess Martha Coast, East Antarctica, a permanent ice shelf extending from the Antarctic continent into the ocean. The ice cliffs he described were 15 to 30 meters high. Behind the ice shelf lay the Antarctic continent itself, invisible beyond the horizon. The critical question: did Bellingshausen recognize this as land? Bellingshausen's language. In his journal is ambiguous. He called it an ice field, ledenoe pole. He did not claim to have discovered a continent. He noted it was solid and continuous and appeared to be attached to land. But he didn't definitively state he had seen land. Possible reasons for his caution. 1. He couldn't see rock or earth, only ice. 2. He knew Cook had encountered massive ice fields that were simply frozen Ocean 3. He was scientifically cautious and didn't want to claim a discovery he couldn't prove. 4. The ice shelf was so vast he may not have realized it was connected to a continent. Later in the voyage, Bellingshausen became more confident. On February 17th, 1820, he wrote, "I call the ice I have seen this day continental ice. It must be of great thickness and of old formation." What modern science knows. The Fimbul ice shelf is permanently attached to the Antarctic continent, fed by continental ice sheets flowing from the interior. What Bellingshausen saw was definitely Antarctic ice attached to Antarctic land. He was the first person to see any part of Antarctica. February-December 1820, continuing the circumnavigation. The expedition continued eastward, circumnavigating Antarctica at high southern latitudes. February 1820. Discovered Peterborough Island, 68 to 50s, 90 to 30 W, named after Peter the Great, a small volcanic island, 11 km 6, 5 kilometers, covered in glaciers, first land discovered south of the Antarctic Circle. January 21st, 1821. Discovered Alexander III Island, 69 to 70 degrees, named after Tsar Alexander I, a large island, 43,950 kilometers, connected to the Antarctic Peninsula by ice shelf, second discovery south of the Antarctic Circle. Voyage statistics. 751 days. At sea, over 92,000 kilometers. Sailed, circumnavigated Antarctica twice. Discovered 29 islands. Lost only a 3-man got to illness, extraordinary for the era. Created detailed charts of the Southern Ocean. July 24th, 1821. Returned to Kronstadt. Reception in Russia. Bellingshausen's achievement was largely ignored by Russian imperial authorities. They were more focused on European politics. Received little public recognition. His journal wasn't published in full until 1831. Most importantly, he didn't claim to have discovered a new continent, only ice fields and islands. Modern recognition. Today, historians recognize Bellingshausen as The first person to see the Antarctic continent, January 28, 1820, one of the greatest polar explorers, a pioneer of scientific Antarctic exploration, the first to circumnavigate Antarctica close to the coastline. The Bellingshausen Sea, a major embayment in West Antarctica, is named in his honor. 2. Great Britain, Edward Bransfield, January 30th, 1820. The expedition, a sealer's accidental discovery. Background: British sealers operating in the South Shetland Islands, discovered by William Smith in February 1819, reported seeing land further south, across the Bransfield Strait. Commander: Master Edward Bransfield. C. 1785-1852. Royal Navy surveyor, skilled navigator and cartographer, not originally intended to command a discovery expedition, assigned to chart the newly discovered South Shetland Islands. The ship: Williams, formerly Espirito Santo, a small hired brig, two-masted merchant vessel, approximately 100-150 tons. Captain, William Smith, civilian owner. Crew, mix of naval personnel and sealers. The mission: The Royal Navy ordered Bransfield to survey and map the South Shetland Islands, investigate reports of land further south, assess potential for seal hunting, claim any discoveries for Britain. January 1630, 1820, the surveying voyage. January 16th, 1820, Puy, departed Valparaiso, Chile. January 20th, 1820, ice, reached South Shetland Islands. January 22nd to 29, 1820, surveyed and mapped the island's Bransfield systematically, charted coastlines, named islands and features, took magnetic and astronomical readings, collected specimens. January 30th, 1820, the sighting. Position: approximately 60 Fortix, 60 degrees. Exact position debated. What happened? While sailing south of King George Island, South Shetlands, at approximately 10 a.m., the lookout reported high land to the south. What did Bransfield see? The historical record is frustratingly unclear because Bransfield's original log was lost. Only fragmentary second-hand accounts survive. The ship's surgeon, Adam Young, kept notes, later discovered. Various crew members gave differing testimony later. From Adam Young's journal: At 10 o'clock, we discovered land in latitude 64 degrees. The land appeared to be of considerable height and covered with snow. What modern research indicates? Bransfield was looking at the Trinity Peninsula, northernmost tip of the Antarctic Peninsula, Mount Bransfield, 1,890 meters, now named in his honor. Clear sighting of actual rock and earth, not just ice. Key difference from Bellingshausen: Bransfield definitively saw rocky mountains and black cliffs. Unmistakable land, not just ice. Did Bransfield recognize he had discovered a continent? Evidence he understood the significance. Young's journal refers to it as land. Bransfield named it Trinity Land. He formally claimed it for Britain. He attempted to land, but was prevented by ice and rough seas. Evidence of uncertainty. He didn't call it a continent, just land. He couldn't determine if it was an island or part of something larger. He didn't spend much time exploring it. His mission was to survey the South Shetlands. February-March 1820. Continued exploration. Bransfield continued sailing along what we now know is the Antarctic Peninsula, charted approximately 200 kilometers of coastline, named several features, many names didn't survive, reported the land extended as far as the eye could see to the south and west, encountered dense pack ice preventing close approach. March 1820. Returned to Valparaiso. Historical impact. Bransfield's discovery was reported to the Royal Navy but received limited attention. His charts were used by subsequent explorers. Britain claimed sovereignty over the Antarctic Peninsula, later disputed. His detailed descriptions of land made it clear this was not just ice. The Trinity Peninsula. He discovered is now recognized as the northern tip of the Antarctic Peninsula, one of Antarctica's most geographically distinct regions. Recognition. Bransfield Strait, between South Shetland Islands and Antarctic Peninsula, named in his honor. Mount Bransfield Fusasted on Trinity Peninsula. Modern British historians often claim Bransfield as the true discoverer of Antarctica. 3. United States, Nathaniel Palmer, November 17, 1820. The expedition, the sealer who changed history. Background. American sealing companies, hearing of rich seal populations in the South Shetlands, rushed expeditions south to exploit this resource before it was exhausted. Commander, Captain Nathaniel Brown Palmer, 1799-1877, only Apam, 21 years old. At the time, from Stonington, Connecticut, experienced sealer despite his youth, captain of a small sloop. The ship. Hero, a tiny sloop, single-masted vessel. Only as 47 tons, 14.5 meters long. Crew, 5 men, one of the smallest ships ever to reach Antarctica. The mission. Palmer's orders from the sealing company. Hunt seals in the South Shetland Islands. Scout for new sealing grounds. Explore waters to the south. Assess seal populations. November 1820. The Discovery Voyage. November 16, 1820. Palmer departed from Deception Island, South Shetlands. His intention: explore south across the Bransfield Strait to search for more seal colonies. November 17, 1820, the sighting. Position: approximately 60 degrees. What happened? On November 17, 1820, at dawn, Palmer sighted land to the south. High mountains with snow-covered peaks, rocky cliffs descending to the sea, coastline extending east and west as far as visible. What did Palmer see? He was looking at the Antarctic Peninsula, same region Bransfield had seen earlier in the year, specifically the Orleans Strait area, mountains reaching 2,000+ meters in elevation. Palmer's account. Unlike Bransfield, Palmer kept a detailed log which survived. Stood to the southward. At 8 a.m. made land. It appeared to be an extensive mountain coast covered with snow. November 18th, 1820. Closer investigation. Palmer sailed closer to the coast, mapped several kilometers of coastline, named prominent features, attempted to find a landing site, was prevented from landing by pack ice and rough seas. Did Palmer land on Antarctica? His log indicates he did not land. He came within a few hundred meters of shore. He lowered a boat to take soundings, depth measurements, but ice conditions prevented actual landing. The Palmer-Bellingshausen meeting, February 1821. In one of history's remarkable coincidences, Palmer's ship encountered Bellingshausen's expedition in February 1821 near Deception Island. What happened? According to accounts, Palmer was invited aboard the Vostok. Bellingshausen showed Palmer his charts of the southern coast. They compared notes on what they had seen. Palmer told Bellingshausen about his November 1820 sighting. Bellingshausen supposedly asked Palmer, "Did you see the land to the south?" Palmer replied, "Yes, I saw mountains covered with snow." The controversy. Some accounts, particularly American sources, claim Bellingshausen said, "You have discovered the Antarctic continent." However, this quote doesn't appear in Bellingshausen's journal. It may be apocryphal, added later to bolster Palmer's claim. Bellingshausen's journal simply notes, "meeting an American sealing vessel." Palmer's later career. Palmer continued sealing and became one of America's most successful seal hunters, a wealthy merchant ship owner, a respected navigator who helped design clipper ships, an advocate for American Antarctic exploration. Recognition. Palmer Land. Original name for the Antarctic Peninsula, used until 1960s. Palmer Archipelago. Island group off the peninsula. Palmer Station. Current U.S. Antarctic Research Station. American historians long claimed Palmer as the true discoverer of Antarctica. The Great Question: who really discovered Antarctica? The competing claims. Russia, Bellingshausen and Lazarev, January 28, 1820. Claim: first to see Antarctic ice connected to the continent. Strength: earliest date, methodical scientific expedition, detailed records. Weakness: saw only ice, not actual rock. Didn't recognize it as a continent at the time. Claim was made retrospectively. Britain, Bransfield, January 30th, 1820. Claim: first to see actual land, rock and mountains. Strength: definitively saw land, not just ice. Recognized it as significant. Named it. Weakness: only 2 days after Bellingshausen. Limited records survive. Didn't claim it as a continent. United States, Palmer, November 17th, 1820. Claim: independent discovery of the peninsula. First American to see Antarctica. Strength: detailed log survives. Youngest explorer. Most dramatic story. Tiny ship, young captain. Weakness: 10 months after Bellingshausen and Bransfield. Clearly not the first sighting. Modern consensus. Most historians now agree. Bellingshausen saw Antarctica first. January 28, 1820, but didn't realize it was a continent. Bransfield made the first undisputed sighting of Antarctic land. January 30th, 1820. Palmer made an independent discovery, but was not the first. The fairest conclusion. All 3 expeditions discovered Antarctica nearly simultaneously, reflecting that the time was ripe for discovery, technology, economic motivation. Multiple nations were racing south. Antarctica is so vast that multiple first sightings from different angles were inevitable. The real winner. Science and human knowledge. Antarctica's existence was conclusively proven.